Hello peoples, welcome to the Stoked Bloke Show. I'm Barton Lynch, I am the Stoked Bloke. Joining me is Peter PK King. I'm coming to you from the Pipeline Studios. Pipeline's just right out the door there. Kind of a meek pipeline today, and it's been that way for a while. Massive thank you to A New Earth Project for supporting the podcast, giving us a voice and letting us share our activities and opinions with you, the peoples of the world.
Where were you the last 2 weeks, Barton?
I was with you, mate. We were over there in Portugal. I hadn't been to Portugal in 20 plus years, or to Europe in 20 plus years. And
when you last went, did you go on a steamship?
No, I went on a single prop.
Yeah.
It was one of them 3 month journeys. Imagine that back in the day, where to come to Hawaii, to go anywhere was a ship ride that took days and days. And in the modern world, you could cross over Greenland, Iceland, look out the window, beautiful views.
And imagine
from the plane.
We would have been in what's called stowage back then. Being coach class passengers, we would have been at the bottom of that boat.
That's right.
And I hear it smelled down there.
I've been on some boats that do smell in Indonesia, Tahiti.
What were you doing in Portugal?
A few reasons, really, but primarily to help Carlos Munoz, A New Earth Project team rider.
Yep.
And ambassador, someone that we love. Carlos and Kelly Slater, we went over, we hung with them, we did work with those guys. Kelly jumped in on the drills with Carlos. We primed them for the event, and it was really interesting to work with surfers at such completely sort of different ends and spectrums of their careers and in such different places. Carlos, he qualified for the World Tour after 9 years of trying. He actually, in his first event, blew his shoulder out, lost his right to the rest of that year. And then this year, sort of with the help of others, some fine feathered friends that he has, and the WSL was given the injury wildcard and got a chance, and all of a sudden was here at Pipeline to start his year. And Pipeline and Sunset came up on him so fast, he was like, hey, it'd be great to get some help, great to get some focus. And Portugal was the first step in that direction in a relationship between he and I.
So how long have you been coaching overall?
I've been coaching, well, I started coaching myself when you think about it as a teenager, and I had such a scientific approach to the way I analysed what was going on that they were all the steps that made me or put me in the position to be a coach. I've been coaching, I retired at the end of 97. So there's 25 years I've been out in the real world coaching other people outside of all the time, 15 years on tour. So you could call it 40 years in the firing line. And
you've done it in so many different formats, because the blast off was obviously a way where it was physical at first when you had the live events, and then the online technique, because that wasn't even something that existed 24 years ago. What was it like going to this event, going back to the WSL where you used to work a couple years ago, and to go back into that competitors area? We might be jumping ahead a little bit on everything we want to talk about, but what was it like just walking into an event site?
It is intimidating, and when you've been around so long, after my 15 years of the tour, I took a sort of 10-year break where I didn't go to a single event, never looked at a magazine, what they were, a video, a surf movie, had so little contact with the professional sport, didn't watch Andy Irons and Kelly Slater surf heats, missed that whole generation of time. And I remember coming back around 2007 to the US Open for the first time and walking in that very first morning and thinking, just feeling out of place, like you didn't belong, kind of, I don't know, it's just like an embarrassment kind of thing you're experiencing. You kind of, you're skulking around really, because you don't know, you feel out of place, and all of a sudden people just reach out and go, oh, PL, where you been? Good to have you back. Oh, no. And all of a sudden, you're a part of that family, and it's the surfers are always so respectful and so warm and generous towards me, and they kind of understand what you've contributed. So it comes with pressure and a weird feeling, and at the same time that's always sort of tempered with that respect you get from the modern day champions, and that always makes you feel really good to know that those guys know you did something in the sport at some point in time, and they have respect for you, and they listen to you, even to do that small amount of work with Kelly, being the incredible champion that he is, to think that he is open-minded enough to open his ear and listen to what you've got to say and see how that can help him to still become better, was a fantastic experience too.
Surfing seems to understand its history and have respect for the lineage of the sport. So even if you took that time off, when you come back, I'm sure people were excited to see you. So what about taking a couple years off from WSL and walking into the machine it is now? Did you notice a difference, a feel at the events? What's the energy level like?
Well, I think we were blessed by the Portuguese people, because their energy disrupted or dissolved any political weirdness or anything that I could feel about not working for them anymore, or not having the opportunity to work for them anymore, and having never really been given a reason why that is such, you know. And then when I got to the Hurley Pro this year, and it had been a whole year since I'd commentated.
And that was the one at Sunset?
Yeah, that was the last event I did, the Hurley Pro, and I did that through my relationship with Hurley and WSL. And
you literally live 100 yards away from the event.
Yeah, literally, a few hundred yards from the event site. And when I didn't get an invitation, still had my relationship with Hurley, and didn't get the invitation to work that event, I went, well, I figure I'm pretty much out. You know what I mean? And regardless of why they don't want me to do that job, every single day I get people reaching out going, when are you coming back? How we get to listen to you? And so thank you to all those people and all of that keeps you uplifted in the process of, I suppose, in a sense. Let me show you this. As we talk, we know we live in times where people are cancelled for their opinions.
Sure.
They are taken out, rubbed out, disrespected, ridiculed, and treated like shit because they don't agree with the narrative, and they're not allowed to have their opinion at this point in time because there is a narrative that's being force-fed, and if you have an opinion outside of that, you have trouble swallowing the one they're force-feeding you, and you have your own, you are to shut up and not share it, or else your job, your potential future, whatever it is, will be taken from you, and you'll be cancelled. To live in those times is horrible enough when your opinion doesn't match that of the narratives. And if we were to keep score, conspiracy theories versus reality, the conspiracy theories are leading this match.
It's a shutout.
It's a complete shutout. There's no comeback possible, whether you go from lockdowns and the impact of lockdowns, their ineffectiveness and potential mental health, and the disruptive nature of a lockdown to a community, the appropriateness of masks, PCR testing, not identifying illness and infectiousness, all these things that the conspiracy theorists have been saying have all come true over time, and as they keep coming true, vaccine not stopping transmission, on and on and on, it's a shutout, the game. And it brings up the Bethany Hamilton situation with one of the ISA and into the WSL announced their gender policies. She comes out and sort of says, is a testosterone test enough to change your sex? Is that all it is nowadays? Is a test, a scientific test that'll change what you are, and people.
It's a very good point.
Well, it's a very good point, and
she brought it up in a very kind way.
Kind, respectful. We love Bethany. We did the podcast with her. She is such a wonderful mother, first and foremost. She is an incredible athlete, and as a human, she stands with her ability to push on in the face of adversity as mankind has forever. She's one of them bright sparks that makes you feel good about life, about yourself, and about your opportunities. And to see her just say what she thinks doesn't mean you have to think it. Doesn't mean I have to think it. She's just sharing an opinion, saying how she feels about it. Fantastic thing to have. Healthy, balanced, creates health because of the balance of opinion. That's why we're all different in those minute ways, so that things balance out. For all one way or all the other, it's sort of, if you just imagine it, it's obvious and easy to understand why we need diversity of opinion. Diversity of religion, diversity of things keeps the balance. And so we live in a time where they don't welcome that. And we saw that all of the athletes, male and female, wore the name of an inspired woman on the back of their jerseys to celebrate International Women's Day. And that was a fantastic thing. And we saw all these different names. There were people that chose Bethany Hamilton, arrived to the event site to see their jerseys without her name on it, and a name that was chosen for them without their consultation on that jersey. Now, we wouldn't say that lightly. We wouldn't make that, if that was we know a lot of people in a lot of places, and when you're in those environments, word goes around real fast. You know what I mean? When everyone's talking about something. And, at the start of the event, there was that conversation going around about how people had chosen Bethany, arrived, and not been allowed to have her. So essentially...
And people before the event chose her name and were told that she was not someone they were able to choose.
So it would seem that in a cancelling nature, Bethany, from participation in that particular event and that function around the event of celebrating women, she wasn't allowed to be celebrated, even if some surfers wanted to celebrate her. So that brings up this thing around the sport, and whether the sport itself, its governing body, should be non-political, non-religious, not have an opinion about how someone should be or should not be, and should run the sport for the betterment of all, regardless of ideologies, philosophies, religions that they hold personal to themselves. They should be tolerated by that sport, because that's the individuality of the field of participants.
And especially surfing is a very individualistic sport. We celebrate that. That's why people are sponsored. That's what pushes our culture.
We all, we're like skateboarders, like snowboarders, we're like mountain climbers, where we were a small fraternity of outfit, like people who didn't fit in. Outcasts is the word, thank you. We're a community of outcasts who found solace and community in coming together as surfers, and there were other people like you who were different in their own ways, and there have always been those unique characters in our sport that just make you happy to be a surfer, and I don't want that I hate to see that sterilised out of our culture and out of our being, and this uniformity come across everyone, and everyone think and have to behave the same way because you're worried about the scores you might get or the exposure you might not get or whatever it is. That's that position of judgment should not exist as a sporting body. It should be there just to run the sport and let the people who are the athletes, they are the sport, have their own stuff. That's their stuff. You shouldn't. It's not your business. And now let's get to the performance of Portugal.
There was some fun to be had, right?
Wow, mate. We and you said it before you went, and this is interesting to experience it, how the lead up and those days before it are like your favourite part. And then you kind of, round 1, 2, whatever, you don't even feel like you necessarily need to be there that much longer, because it's kind of already there's people are losing, things are, happening from that point of view. And that was kind of, our lead days were fantastic fun. Training with the boys, going to see different breaks, beautiful, beautiful place. And in the 20 years since I'd been there, hadn't changed that much.
Well, it hasn't changed much since 1726 either.
Yes, but that's the beauty. How's the culture and that sense? There is this dramatic, romantic, powerful energy to the coastline where that land meets the sea there, and it's just so jagged and so much personality, and you can just see the time that has transpired in the layer of stone. And we'd spend a lot of time going just to see the energy and the raw power of the ocean exploding onto the shore, and that part of it was fantastic. I love that part, just the natural part. And then the Portuguese people, they made that event. The waves until the final day were very average, and people struggled to get to that finals day, and whoever got through a heat in those conditions deserved it, because it was tough. The biggest morning was heavy. It was really seriously heavy, in that 8 to 12 foot range. The day Callum Robson got the 10, and they called it off shortly after that, because it didn't look that surfable, but there were absolute diamonds in amongst the rough, and it was dangerous out there. So that was an amazing part to see. On the performance side of things, Caitlin Simmers winning the ladies, beating Courtney Conlog. So great to see a young girl win the ladies, a teenager beat the world's best, and those backhand hooks she's got going on are going to win a lot of contests. She gets into rhythm with those things and flares that tail up and down, and there's not much on the face performance that matches that she has at this point in time. And then Courtney Conlog, I love seeing her do good, and after 17ths back to back, or first round losses back to back, to go and make a final was a big confidence booster for her and put her right back on track. But she seems to be able to ride all of that goes on in her life with not a lot of fuss, because she's stoked inside. She's just bubbling with happiness and stoked inside. So whatever's going on around her, she's got that confidence that in time it'll pass. And it did again. So congratulations to both of them.
We were doing you would organize some sort of training sessions on those lay days leading up. Mm-hmm. And you have some fun ways that you coach. Mm-hmm. Describe Waves Fast and the gears. And that was really cool to have Carlos and Kelly kind of pushing each other. It was fun to really watch that.
Yeah. For me, when I look at where the opportunities for improvement are, there's so much focus on the physical body. And there's not as much focus on the potential of the mind. If we use 10% of it and you could get to 11, who knows what that represents in performance. But trying to train a competitor rather than a surfer was the way I came about my drills sessions that I do with competitors, where I was like, surfing in a heat and free surfing are completely different energy systems. Free surfing, you're never really out of breath. You're kind of cruising around, there's no pressure, it's kind of happy days. Surfing in a heat, just from the paddle out, the stress of the environment, you just are in a different place, and you finish a ride after the intensity you put into it and you're puffing and panting on the way out. So I designed these drills that we shared with Carlos and Kelly to train the competitor. And for both those guys, to me, that's where the work needs to be done, in that sharpening of the tools department. And so I felt like it was really powerful in there. The Waves Fast drill they both took to, and I think you'd agree with me that we saw surfing that made us feel good and inspired us about their chances.
Even though it was small waves, it was really fun to watch that. There's a contest there in just trying to outcatch waves from the guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and just be fast and have a simple focus on the drill and achieving the result.
So what can you say what Waves Fast is, or does that give it away?
No, Waves Fast is a drill that has you operating at your maximum capacity from the start until you return to the beach. And you choose a number of waves you're going to catch, call it 10. And from the time you leave that beach, you paddle at your maximum. You hunt for waves like there's no tomorrow. You're always in the motion of creating opportunity, going to an opportunity. You don't sit and wait for that opportunity to come to you, like free surfing.
And you made it so that the first surfer to catch 10 waves and finish them won. It wasn't the score you got on the waves. No. It was catching them.
And it wasn't about the wave you caught. Anything counts, and really anything you can catch. So you'll be paddling back out and there'll be a half a foot little chip that you can turn around and go on, and we saw Kelly and Carlos going on tiny little waves, and you could just see the energy start to build in both those guys and starting to sharpen up their performance. And so I felt like that was really powerful. It's a powerful drill, I know that from experience. And then the gears drill also that we do a lot of in terms of is based around managing your output, defining it by the categories of consistency and energy, and then managing consistency and energy in an approach that allows you to deliver, call it a 5-wave set, where your first wave's in first gear, second wave's in second gear, and you build that way, build your performance to something and get into the habit of building it and knowing how to manage it and build it into the fifth gear.
In fifth gear, are you risking falling on your turns? This is 100% output, right?
100% output, and you take risk. But at fifth gear, you're in such a flow state that risk doesn't feel like risk does when you're in a lower gear.
So first gear, you're cruising. Lip line, you look like Stephanie Gilmore at J-Bay on a twin fin.
That's right, exactly. Yeah. 50% energy and 100% consistency. Second gear, you lower the consistency down, a little bit, or you leave it at 100, and then you just build the energy a little bit, go from 50 to 70 and start to just use this more, swing things more, just put more energy into the body and create more focus in your mind. Third gear, the mind's getting sharp, the body's building, you're taking more risk, the angles are coming into things, it starts to become a more aggressive performance.
Third gear, pro surfers can work out of third gear sometimes, huh?
That's where you live in third, high third, comfy high third. Doesn't need a lot of risk, but it has absolute attention to the energy and to the impact in everything you do.
I feel like third gear is a guy in a heat where he catches a set and that wave is an 8, but he makes a 7 on it.
Yeah, it could be that. Yeah, that's exactly right.
He safe walks in a 7.
Yeah, and depending on your time, start of a heat, nice. End of a heat where you need an 8 or a 9, you're not going to surf in that gear, right? You've got to go up. So you know what gear you need to be in based on the position you're in, and we all know that the best guys deliver what they need to deliver and not much more.
So those both are about managing and controlling your output.
Yeah, and manifesting intensity in there that connects you with your grommet, which is you frothing around catching every little tiny wave you can like you did when you were a kid. Well, back then I did them every day, and I was a 50 waves fast guy. That was my session. I'd go out and do 50 and come in and go, that was a lot. I'm emotional. Yeah, and that's the key is just to build that number, so that you've got the ability to go with that intensity for longer than a heat is.
You're one of the elite 32 in this position on the world tour. Controlling your output is very important. That's something you can do with your mind, not just your physical approach.
Absolutely. And you need to, I always do this one, right? Simple. I go like that. And they look at me, I go, do that. Do it.
What is it?
Just do it. Do you know how that happens? No freaking idea. Miracle machine, mate. And I can be talking to you and put in the most gentle, subtle request to move those 2 fingers. Somehow, the intelligence of this thing takes the requests. Nerves, muscles, tendons, blood, all this stuff starts going to work to create that. I don't do it. I'm not in control of that, right? And surfing like that is something you want to be able to just deliver with that subtle, gentle mental presence. Doesn't need to be, now I need you to hit the lip. I need you to smash this bottom turn. You fell off, you idiot. What are you doing? Oh, you know what I mean? That's ego. That's you out of control in your mind overtaking the physical respect you have for the physical body's abilities. And when this thing's a combo act and it's all working together, what you have visualised, the blueprint that is in your mind, is what will happen on the wave. And to improve what happens on the wave, you need to improve the blueprint and expand the blueprint so the potential of the physical body has grown and is greater. So this thing's got a lot of parts to play in peak performance, and you see it all. I saw The Athlete's Mind was a documentary on the plane. Well, I'll have a look at that. It's all the same. While I'd never went to school, hardly, and I'm not trained or studied or qualified in nothing. These ideas and concepts that I developed myself through my own desire to be good and understand it, when I watch the scientific program, it's all the same stuff, but just arrived at through and for me, it's kind of like validation. I'm like, yeah, see, these are the concepts. Meditation, so powerful with yoga, into visualization, into the gratification and respect of the potential of this thing. Can do all sorts, mate. Can do anything. So powerful. And it's our limiting beliefs and ideas that prevent it from its absolute engagement with life and opportunity. And you quieten this old fella down and get yourself out of the way a bit and have the trust and faith in this thing to do its job, and you really have less to do. But the ego doesn't like that because it needs to be important and it needs lots to do. So it needs to confuse you, needs you to be in this place where you need it and you're trying to talk to it and where really silence is.
One day we were watching a free surf session and Sammy Pupo and Joao Chumbo showed up. They brought Gear 5 energy.
It was interesting, eh? It was a windy, cold old afternoon on the beach. We're going for the late, and Kelly and Carlos. Carlos had a great little session down in that shorey, and then Kelly arrived, and we went down the beach, and those guys went out there, and Kelly was riding some different boards. And we got rid of them and got back to the core board, So that was a process of just making sure he knew that they were no good. Right? There was this experiment, but maybe the quad, maybe the twin. No, back to the thruster. And then those guys arrived and they went in the water, and the energy that we experienced on the beach just changed in front of our eyes, and we watched people start riding a long waves like it was the most important thing they would ever do. And we were like, and you just looked at me and went, fifth gear all the time. We were like, fifth gear all day, all the time, going at stuff with just this focus and determination. And he ended up winning.
How hungry did Joao look?
He was starving. The guy hadn't eaten a meal in a long time, mate, and he just needed a big sambo of success. And we saw it that afternoon, and Sammy as well, and Miguel. Miggy was smooth and silky on those lefts too. There's surfing you watch and you see, and there's surfing you feel, you know. And if your surfing doesn't have the feel in it, you ain't going to win, because they need to... Judges are the hardest people to move because they've seen you so many... Imagine Kelly Slater. We talked about this. I had a heat with Kelly Slater in 1989 at New Smyrna Beach, the Aloe Cup. And Kelly and I surfed in a heat first round. 34 years ago. 34, that's right, 89, 99, 2009, there you go. 34 years ago, he and I said to him on the beach, I was like, mate, hard to keep him interested after 34. You know what I mean? It's going to take for him to find what is inside him, and a reason to do that at this point in his career when you have achieved so much. Was it 56 event wins, something crazy like that? You're in your 50s, you've won 11 world titles, you know, you are undisputed greatest of all time. You've won the Eddie Cow, dominated at Chopu and Pipeline, the places that we all regard highest, and then you go out for another heat. And it's, you know, for the judges to feel something new in that, to feel something excited like they would with those kids we were talking about in that Brazilian new storm, the new front of the storm that's coming again. It takes a lot of time with yourself to find a reason, and you know, to go from Kelly that's where he's at to Carlos where there's every reason. You know, like we said, 9 years trying to get there, injury out, don't get the chance to realise that. Okay, injury wild card at the last moment. Oh, I'm in, back into the field. Oh, I've lost. Oh, another loss, you know, and you kind of you're like the fighter in the ring getting punched around the ring, and you know, but you got to just get back up, mate. You know, isn't it? It's one of them Rocky type things. You got to get up. You got to, you know, just take the lickings and keep on ticking, as they say. And out of all of that, there was so much learning going on, so many positives that we took out of it, and we saw the winners win. And Jack Robbo has consolidated himself at the top of those rankings, and rightly so. He's there in the free surfs, but he's more there in the contest. And that's always, you know, I've seen so many people dominate the free surfs and be the man before the event and win the free surf and then lose in the contest. And so that balancing act of your energy to peak at the right time and have that focus in the right places, energy in the right places, he's doing a masterful job of as a young man. So he had a first, a third and a second.
What do you think about Joao's win?
Joao's win was massive, and you could see, one, because we knew the energy that was there and the desire. We felt the desire. We know what it means to him. We weren't confused when we watched him free surf. We knew. And then you see it, and he sits on those shoulders and he's getting cheered up, and then he just lets it go, and you see him and it's the time of your life. It's a young kid dream of a moment like that, and there you are sitting on your mate's shoulders going, oh, no way, it came true. So that's a magnificent thing. And for Robbo, just keeps the focus going the way it is, and he could be in that same position because his goals are ahead of where Giles is. Giles is to win an event, you know, to beat Kelly Slater, those things that he achieved in this event. But for Robbo, he's already done that stuff. He's ready to go to that. Yeah, he's got that world championship in mind. Molly Picklum, free surfing, energetically, we kind of watched her dominate Hawaii, win a pipeline in the Vans and at sunset. And so yellow jersey, looking so powerful and strong, tube riding maybe better than anyone. Really got a level which is creating the opportunities in the big sunset and here, tubes, incredible tubes, and great turns on the face. And so she's still in the yellow jersey. And I feel like, you know, again, young, carefree, dreams being realised. You're kind of living in a wonderful place at that point in life. So great to see her. Blast off alumni. A couple other people I wanted to mention that I thought were really good. Ethan, Griff, both those guys surfing fantastic, pulling out wins in situations where things weren't going their way, perhaps in a heat, and all of a sudden Griff would just throw the tail on a wave that was a 4 and turn it into an 8 with sheer skill, you know.
He says he's on the fun tour. When we saw him pre-surfing, he looked like he was having a good time over there, huh?
Yeah, hanging with Kalohe, and Dino was with him, and it's funny, we bumped into them a lot, eh? It's funny, you see certain people, and then others you never see, because you're just on different programs, and we saw Griff and Kalohe and Nat Young a lot. Those guys were surfing great, and that's back to that. Everyone's having a great time, and then the contest starts, and Kalohe, you know, he lost first round into the elimination and out, so those things hurt. It's painful being around there, and back to that feeling of me being back in there when you know you maybe not even wanted there, and you're there helping athletes, kind of adds to that tension that's in the air, people losing and the whole seriousness of it.
Do you think the WSL should continue to waste a day to get rid of 4 people?
Good point, good topic. Didn't write it on the list, but they go through the whole round and then the elimination round, and you eliminate 4 people. It's a lot of surfing in your window to eliminate 4 people.
And especially with the format where you're waiting for waves and you're hoping for waves and you don't have 4 good days of waves.
No, rarely do you get 4 good days of waves. So looking for ways to shorten a format. An interesting thing was the first afternoon when it was called off. And the energy was high on the beach.
The free surf session, which I'll post right now. I mean, Look at this ripping going on. This was a day they could have held the event, and they called it off. And there was a lot of moments, a lot of corners to be ripped.
And the crowd was going wild, and it had no commentary. And you and I were like, oh, give us a microphone. Let us light this thing up, because that was an interesting perspective on what it takes to entertain a crowd using surfing, and opens your mind to possibilities in that space.
Well, a heat has 2 people. That's not that exciting. There's a lot of dead time, a lot of dead air.
Yeah.
You put 20 of the best surfers in the world out at any one time.
Yeah, and it speaks for the overlapping heat format, the value of that in getting through heats and having 4 people in the water and more action. That works, great. Good on you, Kelly Slater. Very clever idea, a great utilisation of time. The women's rankings I thought were really interesting, PK, because we look at Molly Picklum in number 1, Carissa Moore. Then we go Caitlin Simmons, Tyler Wright. So young gun, established guard, young gun, established guard. Tatiana, young gun, kind of young gun. Even Brissa and Caroline are still kind of young guns. Then we go to Betty Lou and Macy rounding out. And then we go to the cut. Sally at 11th, right after the cut, we've got Sally Fitzgibbons, Courtney Conlog, Lakey Pearson, Stephanie Gilmore, all the established guard. All on the end and on that downside of making that mid-season cut.
I think they were all on my fantasy team.
Yeah, that was a bad pick, mate. So
Darn it.
The women's, you can definitely see a changing of the guard presenting itself at this point in time. Early days, only 3 events. But when you say that, then you go, well, there's only a couple more and it's a cut. So it's not really early days, it's actually the days, isn't it? So the old guard, will they stand up? And Courtney was well back. She proceeded right up with that second place to get second. So interesting there. Kelly, he's in 24th spot at the moment with Barton.
Pretty far down.
The Leandro Dora team, energy, focus, results reflecting what you feel of them as a group of individuals. Leandro is Iago Dora's dad. He has his son, Jack Robbo, and Ian Gentile kind of joined in with those guys, and he's working magic with those guys. Iago is ripping. Another person we need to mention is Connor O'Leary. Most improved on the tour this year?
The tour has started off in conditions that really suit him. I thought he was going to do better at Sunset. He's really powerful backside.
Yeah.
He got to show off those thighs, those thunder thighs, and that mullet. What a combination in Peniche.
Thunder thighs. Said that he loves the Olympic lifting. And I was thinking about the old Nathan Florence thighs, and he was saying, I love what he does. I love that stuff. And you can see in the power in both those guys surfing. So Connor O'Leary, he's in great form. And again, it's a race now to see if you even stay on the thing, right?
There's not one person that likes the cut.
Yeah.
Nobody likes the cut.
I don't like it.
Nobody
obviously.
likes it.
Nothing there, nothing more. There's just two little things. Blake Johnston from Cronulla.
Wow.
A 40-hour surf. Alex Chumpy Pullen was an Australian Olympic snowboarder. My daughter's boyfriend, long-time boyfriend, Dave Vlug from North Narrabeen, Vluggy, sponsored by Vulcan for a long time. Vluggy's sister was married to Alex Pullen, to Chumpy. And so I have that connection to those guys through family and have spent time with them all. And Chumpy passed away in a diving accident. And they have his foundation that works a lot in that mental health area and kids. And Blake Johnston did his 40-hour surf for the foundation, raising funds. I think I read 375k was raised. He rode 707 waves. Good on you, brother. You start thinking about it and you think, well, I'd sit in the water for 40 hours and most probably pull that, bring out a sandwich, whatever. But then you go, he's surfing all the time. He rode 707 waves and achieved the goal. New world record, longest surf. That's something that's going to be challenged. That's something that's going to go, grow and go. So congratulations, Blake. Great work. To the people at Chumpy Pool, you know who you are. We love yous. And that's amazing effort. Good on him. And one last thing. Fukushima. What is happening at Fukushima? Right, last I heard, they were going to, the tanks on site are all filling up. Right, and they've got all the toxic wastewater, and it fills up on site. At first, it was saying it was leaking into the ground and into the Pacific Ocean that way. But the word in the street is that those things are full, and they're dumping that waste into the Pacific Ocean. And I don't know, I haven't had time to research or not, but I figured someone who watches this is going to know what's going on in Fukushima and whether that indeed is what is going on. And if they're indeed throwing all that wastewater into the Pacific Ocean, we should say something. We should at least know. It should at least be on the radar. The best people at hiding stuff are the nuclear industry. There was, Fukushima happened. It was out of the headlines 2 doors later because someone had gone to war with someone else. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden it's flushed off page one and no one ever talks about it again.
On Instagram at the Stoked Bloke Show, if you have any information, hit up Barton and we can follow it up.
We want to follow it up. Do a little good. All right, peoples. We love you. That's our Portuguese wrap. We had a great time over there. We will keep you posted. A lot more action coming up. They're heading to Bells Beach, then on to Margaret River. We'll look at that, see what the cut is, and we'll know more from inside there. I may be going to Bells. We'll have to wait and see. But we love yous. Have a great day.